Looking for tips and tricks on a new city? Top Dog Tours is the best place to check out walking tours. We are in Boston, Philadelphia, Toronto, and New York City. Visit us on topdogtours.com to book your tour today and check us out on social media for offers, discounts, and pictures. Hi, this is Nicole Kelly. This is She Brew in the City, and today I'm sitting down with Arielle Zorger of Arielle Zorger Designs. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Wonderful to meet you.
Yeah, it's nice to put a face to the voice that I've heard. So I'm super excited to talk to you today because, as I mentioned in our initial phone call, my sister turned me on to your products, and I think they're very unique as far as Judaica goes, and I really want to kind of delve into how that started. But first, I want to ask you where you're originally from, where you live now, and how you ended up there.
Sure. So originally from Baltimore, grew up in Owings Mills, went to school in Pikesville, went to a Jewish day school for most of my middle school and high school, and then went to Delaware for college, and then we lived in DC for the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've relocated to North Carolina.
Oh my
so
goodness.
we're in Chapel Hill.
How is North Carolina compared to where you've lived before as far as Jewish community?
So the Jewish community here is fabulous. I feel like the community is so tight and it's so warm and welcoming. And for us not knowing anybody here, it has been just arms wide open, and it's really been like family because we don't have family here. So it's been really great.
Yeah,
I feel very, very blessed.
When we moved to New York, we really didn't have anybody. So it's kind of scary moving to a new city and creating a bit of a community. I know North Carolina has changed a lot. My dad lived in Charlotte for, I believe, almost a year in the 1970s. And it was a very different place, the kind of place where he got like weird looks playing pickup basketball with people who weren't white, that sort of type of place. So I've talked to a lot of people about how the Carolinas in general have changed, which is nice to hear.
Yeah, it's a breath of fresh air.
So you said you went to Jewish day school. What denomination did you grow up in? Reform, conservative, more on the Orthodox side?
So we grew up conservative. The school was modern Orthodox, but at home we were practicing conservative.
Did you guys keep kosher?
We had kosher meat in the house, but we did not keep kosher out of the house.
I know a lot of people will do that. I think it's kind of like a happy medium, and
it worked for us.
Yeah. Do you consider yourself still conservative? Are you a member are you a member of a temple? You mentioned joining a new community.
So we're not members of any temple here yet. We're still about just hitting on the year mark. So we're still trying to figure out where we want to put down roots. But yeah, I mean, we're pretty much the same. Our house is kosher, so we have separate meat and dairy, which is more than I had growing up. So a little bit more, but otherwise we're pretty conservative.
Great. So I want to jump into your business. So what was the initial inspiration for this?
So my business actually began in 2019, before it was ever a business. I struggled with my mental health for as long as I could remember. And this was shortly after my first was born. And my anxiety was just through the roof. And I kind of got a call to paint and kind of never stopped. It was really it was a way of therapy for me, and it just felt good, and all the colors, and it was really just a mental health outlet that turned into now my full business.
What had you been doing before your daughter was born as far as work?
So before she was born, I worked for Marriott Hotels.
Okay.
I worked for them for about 13 years. And COVID happened, and they no longer needed events and sales.
It makes sense. Not too many events happening.
Yeah, exactly. So once all of our jobs were eliminated, we were home and I just kept painting because I was painting before this happened. And then I was like, I want to just keep doing this. This is what's making me happy. This is what I'm passionate about. And I went to school, I studied hotel management, and I love the whole service and hospitality, but I was ready for a change. And I kind of just fell into this. It was like, okay, well, I'm going to give this a shot and see where this takes me. If it's, if it doesn't work, then I'll go back. And if it works, then woohoo.
Were you interested in art at a younger age, or is this something that developed a little bit later on in life?
So I was always very creative. I loved to do arts and crafts. I would do like family, like gifts throughout the year. But I was never like I never was an artist. When I was maybe 7, my mom put me into like this art competition, and it was like the only thing I won in my entire life as a 7-year-old. And it was like, okay, that was fun. I mean, like we still kind of like joke about that now. But yeah, this kind of just found me. I don't know. It was my way to deal with my anxiety.
When you first started painting, was it more oils, watercolors? What kind of painting specifically were you doing?
So I started with acrylic, and I'm still using acrylic. So I've never left the realm of acrylic, but just acrylic on canvas.
So I know your business started as an Etsy store. What was it like running that type of business? I've always been kind of curious. I'm not the craftiest person in the world. My mother's super crafty, and I've always, she used to make, I was in dance team, and, at the, what is it called? At the championships, it was kind of a tradition that the team would carry wands. And my mom got really specific about, like, they would be like themed for whatever our routine was. And she's always been very crafty. So I always said that she should start an Etsy store. So what is the process of that? What was that like? What was it like dealing with customers in that capacity?
So the Etsy thing was very funny, actually. So as I'm going through this discovery of therapy through art, I probably had 50 plus canvases all over our house. Because it was like, where am I going to put all this stuff? And we were downtown DC. We were, in a small townhome, and it was kind of taking over, to say the least. So my husband actually had the idea and was like, why don't you put your art on Etsy? Why don't you see what happens? Doesn't cost anything to start it up. Try it. And, if you sell one, great. If not, not. So I said, okay. So May 19th, 2019, I opened.
That's my husband's birthday. That's my husband's birthday.
So funny.
It's a great day. It's a good day.
It's a great day. And I kind of was like, I was nervous. I mean, I don't think I shared it much on social that I was doing it. It was kind of like, no harm, no foul, and didn't really talk about it. And then it kind of took off, and every piece that I had sold.
Wow.
And I was like, mind blown. And I think, the whole experience of like, then you become a shop owner, and then you have, like you said, we have customers, and dealing with like, all the back and forth of just any customer questions or anything like that. It was just totally just different than what I'm used to. I used to work with customers all the time, being in hospitality. So it was similar in that aspect, but being like the owner of a business, like, nothing I've ever done before in my life.
It's much more responsibility.
Oh, yes.
So it doesn't cost anything to start an Etsy store? How do they make money? I'm curious.
Yes. The way that it works is each listing is like 20 cents.
Oh.
And then if people buy it, then like the listing can renew, and like, it's just it kind of just like automatically updates if you set it up that way. But there's no fee to join. You can just start it, and you think 20 cents, no big deal. And then all of a sudden
it starts to add up.
20 cents.
No, it starts to add up.
They do. But it didn't seem like such a big risk. So I did it. And I was on Etsy for, a very long time. I didn't start my own shop until like my own like website until probably 2021, I want to say. So it was a while. I was probably on there for a good 2 years. I started off, it was all original paintings, and then it was painting cards. And that was what I sold. It was all just hand painted products.
Was it more Judaica themed, or was it just, this is something I feel like painting?
So the Judaica piece came later. I was always doing chamsas and pomegranates in the beginning, but not like, oh, this is all I'm doing. Like there was a ton of just flowers and hearts and just happy art. A lot of brush strokes that were just like all over the place. It wasn't like geared Judaica. That didn't come until really COVID in 2020, where it was like I wanted the outlet just to connect with other people on Instagram. And I feel like that's where I like most connected with other individuals in the Judaic space, and just being women and Jewish and proud. And that's kind of what my goal was and my mission and my values. And it just kind of evolved from there.
That's super cool. I love that. I do love that this started out as a way of therapy, because I also dealt with a lot of postpartum issues after my daughter was born. In general, I have a lot of anxiety. I love that you used the art as a way to deal with that. Maybe someone who's listening will start doing that as a way to help them. I'm always of the idea that, you know, if something that worked for you helps one other person by being honest and open about that, it's definitely worth that.
And it took me a long time to say that out loud.
It's so funny just generationally how people deal with mental health. I remember I was in a new moms group at the JCC, and my mom was like, "You told people that you see a psychiatrist?" I was like, "It's a bunch of Jewish women in New York, Mom. Everyone's seeing a psychiatrist." Like just the one generation difference of how we're talking about mental health and being open about our struggles, and something that I hope, you know, I can be honest with my daughter about someday. So I love that you're being so brave and sharing that it started a business in the process.
I know it's very scary, and it's hard to say, you know, I finally felt comfortable to be open about it. And just like you said, like there's so many people that have the same struggle, and it was like voodoo. You weren't allowed to talk about it forever. I mean, I think the first time I can remember having a panic attack was in elementary school, and I can remember like that day in my head, and just having all these experiences through high school and college, and it was never spoken about for some reason. And then it wasn't until after college I saw a doctor, and she's like, "You have anxiety." And I was like, "Tell me more."
It's so funny that it manifests itself so early. So my mom tells me that we'd get in the car to plan, like, you know, our things for the day, and she'd tell me what we were going to do. And if she went out of order, I'd freak out. So I'm still very list and schedule oriented, but now sometimes because life happens, I'll change my plan. But I'll be like saying to my husband, I was like, "We're going to do this today." And I'm like, "But now we're going to do this." And he's like, "If we're going to do it, let's do it in the way that you said you're going to do," because sometimes it gets a little much dealing with the schedules and all of that stuff. But no, I definitely can relate to that manifesting itself super easy. There's actually, I know at the state college near my parents' house, an art therapy and drama therapy and music therapy programs. So I know this is something that therapists and, you know, mental health professionals have studied about, how art does help people combat mental illness. And I think it's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, again, I had no idea, like while I was like in the thick of it, and I feel so blessed to have found that outlet, but it was totally by accident. It wasn't even like I was searching for it. I mean, like you said, if it could help one person, like just to say that out loud, I mean, then I would feel like my job is done.
And you don't have to start with painting. You know, therapists say even just coloring books can be very therapeutic.
Anything that can help you move your body, I think really helps with that.
I cross stitch, or at least I used to before I had a toddler who grabs everything. Maybe when she's a little older, I'll pick it up again. So let's go back to your business. So when did you decide to transition this into a full-time job? So from an Etsy store to that crazy, scary jump that every business owner knows, where you're like, "Okay, I'm going to do this." When did that happen?
Yeah. So that was in 2021. And until this day, I still have my Etsy shop open. There's still such a benefit of being on Etsy where like your name is out there, and people can find you there if they don't know that you have your own shop. So it's still open. It's a very limited collection of items. But in 2021, I was like, okay, we're doing this. Again, I'm going to try. It's a huge risk. I'm going to buy the domain. I'm going to
Which
make
is surprisingly cheap, though not all domains are cheap, because we own, how many domains would you say we own? Like 20? Like so many domains.
I was so surprised.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like $1, and then sometimes it's like $3,000, depending on the domain.
Yeah, no, it was like, I want to say it was like $14.
Yeah, so it's nothing crazy. It's like $14 a year because it's a yearly thing.
Exactly. And it was like, okay, I'm going to make this investment. I keep telling myself the minute I stop enjoying what I'm doing and don't feel passionate about it, I'm going to stop. And I always kind of had that narrative in the back of my head. And I just kind of pushed through it. And I was like, you know what? This is your life. You have one chance to live. And if this is what brings you joy every day, then put your all into it. So I finally took the risk and, hired someone to help me set up the shop. And because I didn't know.
Yeah, your background was in something completely different.
Totally. So with the help of just friends and community and connections through people, I was able to have someone help me set it up. And then it was like, okay, we're launching this. It's happening. Let's do it. And then slowly I would trickle stuff off of Etsy and try and, push everyone to my site. But there's a whole process in that. It takes a while for people to realize, and just shopping trends. Like, they're so used to seeing me on Etsy, they don't think that there's another shop. And it takes a while, and you have to grow it and nurture it. And there's always things you want to update. But it was like, I'm ready for this step. I think it's time. I want it to be mine. I want the whole thing to be mine. And eventually, hopefully, we will say goodbye to Etsy for good.
The reason I think it's the Etsy shop, you still say people will find that, is because they spend so much on pushing their search results to the top. So, if you type in Judaica or something, even still, it's the first thing because they pump so much into advertising. So that makes sense that you would do that. We deal with the same kind of thing with our tours, where larger companies like Viator and Get Your Guides spend so much on money on their advertising that when you type in Statue of Liberty tour, it comes up even before the place to buy tickets directly. So that makes sense that these larger online companies, they kind of control the market in some capacity and make it hard for small businesses.
So as much as, it's hard, where Etsy takes a lot of they have fees and, I don't know. It's been, great for my business, but I won't miss it.
No, that makes sense. So buy directly from people. If you're listening, don't, if you have the opportunity to buy directly from a vendor or someone like me, a tour company, we don't have to pay sometimes, an exorbitant fee to these other companies. So support small businesses.
Yes.
So your designs are super colorful. Is this something that you follow in your own home decor and in the fashion that you wear?
That is a fabulous question. So I actually, of course, wear black. I'm like, give me my black leggings, wear my black jumpsuit. I just started okay, you know what? I want to embrace it, and I want to wear colors, but me naturally, I gravitate towards black. I'm like, that is my comfort zone. But I don't know, with my business, it's always been color. That is what has always felt good to me. Just throwing it all on the canvas and having it all combined. And I don't know, that to me is happiness for some reason.
It's probably happier to paint with color in general as well.
Yeah. That's at least what I've found. But it's funny because I don't necessarily dress with with how I paint.
With how you paint. Yeah.
Yeah, if that makes sense.
No, that's fine. I live in New York. Black is kind of a staple. I feel like if you're wearing a bright color, it is kind of, you really stand out. There was a whole, I kept seeing Instagram posts after the Barbie movie came out of people dressing in Barbie core, because someone wearing bright pink in New York, it was kind of oh my gosh, this is a very different thing. So I totally get the all black. Yeah. Especially during the winter, I have a and white coat. So I just feel like that's just my uniform during the
Your
winter.
go-to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where do you find inspiration in new designs? You said you started out doing a lot of khamsas and pomegranates, but are you inspired by things that you see? Are you inspired by things that are happening in the news?
Well, I would say all of the above, but my original inspiration was I was a young mom and I was always looking for fun Judaica for my daughter's room was really where it started. And I remember I would type in Moda'ani prayer, like fun, colorful, and like it did not exist. Because I was like, we say Moda'ani every morning, the Shema every night, and I just wanted something fun like in her room and it did not exist. And I was like, well, then I'm going to make it. So I made it. And I mean, it's funny because the Moda'ani prayer that I have in my girls' rooms, I haven't even sold. Like that to me was like one of my first pieces where I was like, so like, that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think one day I will put it up and share it. And
It's very personal.
yeah, it was a very personal thing, at least for me in the beginning. But yeah, I was always looking for like modern and fun and colorful Judaica, and it didn't exist.
Yeah.
And that was kind of how the business evolved. It was like, wait, if I'm looking for this, there's got to be other people that are also looking for this.
Why do you think that there is such a need for modern Judaica? That do you think it's because there's people who, don't want the traditional things, what do you think? Why do you think there's a real need for modern design within Judaica?
So personally, I think there's so many amazing things about being Jewish, and everybody does it differently. And
Which is one of the things I love about being Jewish is that,
I know.
there's not, you get, 200 Jews, there's 400 ways to be Jewish within that 200
Totally.
people.
I think a lot of the stuff that was out there that we saw was kind of just generic. It was like cut and paste, blue, white, like Shabbat, and it was like simple, and it didn't necessarily like speak to the younger generation. And it's just the way that Judaism has evolved over the years. It's just been, we want to be proud. We want to like show how much we love to be Jewish. And I think making items that are colorful and fun and, the kids see that it's happy and there's just a happy way to bring it into your everyday life. And I think that it was just lacking. I don't know why, but it was just, I felt like it was very just dry and there was not that excitement piece.
Yeah, I think that it's making its way slowly into things. The way I originally found out about you, which as I said in our initial call, is my sister is much more of, has a more modern aesthetic, and she's getting something from you for Hanukkah. This is going to air after Hanukkah, so she will already know. That's very much her aesthetic, and I feel like, she looks for things like that. So there I've seen, it's some jewelry brands, especially they're much more modern, but I think with housewares, it's still, like you said, a lot more traditional.
Yeah. I mean, that's been my experience.
Yeah.
And I think just getting feedback. I mean, this is going to be next year will be my 6th year doing this. And, every year I learn and grow, and my customers and the feedback that I get from everybody, I think is just like, it means the world, because I don't know what I don't know. And until people come out and say, oh, I've been looking for something like this, or do you make something, that I can put on my table, or like for my jewelry, like stuff that like, I don't know, that it's through evolving.
How do you get that feedback from them? Is it through, emails or through social media?
A lot of social media. I mean, I have to say, it's a love-hate relationship, but social media has been a game changer for me and my business. The instant communication, the connections, and just feeling like you can just kind of be yourself and be open because you're behind the screen. So I guess people are more, willing to share. But social media has really been one of the number one driving forces for my feedback.
And you're very responsive on social media. There's people I've reached out to that I feel like for various reasons I never hear back from them. But even last night I sent you a message and you were like right on it. Do you feel like that's a full-time job, being so responsive on social media?
So it's funny that you say that because in my head, if I don't respond, then I will forget. Anyone who knows me knows that I cannot remember anything. So if I don't do it in that moment, it is lost in La La Land. So I kind of am like, I want to respond. So if I don't respond in that moment, then I'm going to forget. So I try to be responsive. And I know, like, when I was on the other end, I'm like, I loved it when people wrote me back. Like, it takes courage sometimes to even like write some people. And when they write you back, you feel good about it. And you
Yeah.
feel like, oh, there's a person on the other side of the brand. And it's not just this huge, like, company where you can't talk to the owner. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, not that you can do that anywhere, but that's the kind of business I want to run. I want it to be personal. I want it to feel like they know who they're buying their stuff from and my story. And I don't want it to be just a brand name. Like, I want you to know who I am and how this evolved.
So walk me through the process of creating a new item from idea to posting it on your website.
Okay, so the way that it works is I get an idea of what I want, like, the end product to be. Like, for instance, with the Seder plates that I did last year, they were brand new last year. I was like, I would love to do a Seder plate that has some sort of Passover design, but there was the first one that I did. It was called the Perfect Seder. And like each section of my painting, I would draw the item that it resembles on the Seder plate. So in my mind, I was like, okay, this is what I want the final product to look like. So now I'm going to start to paint it. So I would go into the studio and start painting. And from that point, once I was happy with it and felt like, oh, I can see this as the final, like, it's always hard as an artist, like, when are you done the painting? I think that's something also, like, I very rarely come back to a painting. It's usually in like one sitting where I'm like, okay, I'm in the moment and I like when the colors are wet still and it can play with them all together. But very rarely do I go back. Like, if I stop, then either the inspiration's gone or I don't know. It just doesn't feel cohesive. I don't know how to explain it. But so from that moment, I have a printer that I work with who takes very, very professional photos of my artwork. And then I have the file and can print it on different items. And so I would print it on, for instance, for the Seder plates, I did the glass tray and had little heart bowls for each section to put the items on the Seder plate. So that's kind of how it starts. It's an idea that I have of what I want the final to look like, and then I start the creative process and start painting from there.
What are some of your favorite items to sell?
My favorite items, I have to say, are my drip trays. That started totally by accident. It was, I would say, when I don't even know how young I was, but I remember my mom would always have like this small little plastic trivet underneath her Shabbat candles. And I was always thinking, like, why is it plastic, one? And two, like, she always it was like, I don't know, like mise en place. Like, she always put like the candlesticks on this little trivet. And I was always like, that's so smart. Like, I want like something, but I want something fun. Like, when I am older and have kids and I'll be lighting the Shabbat candles. So it really started with like, okay, I'm going to make a small little glass tray and see what happens. And till this day, like, that is my favorite item to make because it's small and you can really use it for anything, whether it's like to put something hot on it or for the candles for Shabbat. But it's just something we always use. And it's something small and simple, but it still brings your table to life and it makes it feel special.
And it's important for things not only like Shabbat, but also Hanukkah, because as I posted on my Instagram a couple days ago, I'm using tin foil, which is not as pretty as a drip tray, but I'm going to have to get one so that we have something pretty to put the menorahs on. I have 3 menorahs right now. I'm sure by next year we'll probably have more. I feel like having a lot of menorahs right now is just a blatant act of resistance, and putting them in the window is super important.
I agree.
So buy a drip tray. Where do you paint? So you said in the
That's
studio. Do you paint in your house? Do you paint in like an actual art studio?
No, so we transformed our garage into an art studio. So for right now, my studio is in my garage. But it works. So I don't have to worry about when the paint flies everywhere, and I can be in my element and not feel like, oh, it's going to get on the carpet, or, I'm in for a while I was in my daughter's playroom. Like when we were in DC, it was like the playroom, the kitchen, the living room, and it was like my table. And the floor was covered in paint, and that was never good for anyone. So I'm able to be myself and I can paint freely and not feel like, oh, I need to be careful about this and that. I mean, one day, sure, I would love my own studio, but at this point it's working and I'm happy in my space. So
I can imagine having a cohesive and welcoming space is important for an artist. If you're in this place that's got really like negative energy, I feel like that would probably affect your painting.
None of the negative energy.
Yes, no negative energy.
We want all the happy, positive vibes and feel good.
What are some of the challenges you find in being a business owner and also a mother at the same time?
Great one. I think that is the $1 million question, because being a mom entrepreneur is very hard. It's very rewarding, but it is very hard because my time is from drop off to pick up. So my working hours are when I'm home. After I drop off the girls at school, it's like, okay, I have 7 hours to do what I want to do, and then I got to go pick them up, and then I'm on. I want to be present for my children, and it's very hard because when you set out expectations, like how long an order is going to take, or, there is no shipping department, there is no packing department.
Yeah,
like
it's all you.
That is all me. And I think I'm going to finally have to get help in 2024 to hire. I know. I don't even know why I'm saying it out loud, but it's like,
it's scary bringing someone in, because I know I'm such a control freak, and my husband and father are also telling me, they're always telling me that I have to kind of cede responsibilities, but I'm like, no, because no one else can do it the way that I'll do it. It's scary.
It is very scary. And I mean, I think I've realized, as we're just coming off of the Hanukkah rush, I feel like my time is most valuable. And like, I want to be able to be present with my kids. I want to be able to, be the mom I want to be and still run a really successful business. But I have realized I cannot do it all myself. And I think that is such a huge mountain to climb, because you don't want to give a piece up. Like you said, are they going to tie the bows like I do it? Is the sticker going to be straight? Is the note going to be genuine? Or is it just like, thank you? I want it to feel genuine and from myself. And, everything that I make and create is a reflection of me and my brand. And it's hard to give that up, but it's also a necessity to grow. I mean, you can't stay in the same place that you were last year if you want to grow and be something more next year.
I love that you brought up being present, because I find that this is something that I struggle with a lot, because a lot of what I do is kind of like operational stuff on the computer. So it's super easy to be just sitting there with my daughter and be on the computer while she's like, come play with me. So it's really hard to find that balance between trying to get your work done and being present, because she's only in school 3 days a week from 8:45 to 12. So I have less than 7 hours a day to get what I need done. And I'm also giving tours as well. So it can be super difficult. And I think a lot of working parents feel that way, even if they do have help and they work outside the home and have, a nanny or a babysitter or a relative watching their kids. Sometimes it's still hard to be present when you get home because you're exhausted.
100%. There is no, covering that up. That is the reality. I think we can only do the best that we can do. And what else can you do? I think, we're all going to be exhausted at the end of the day. It's just prioritizing, what is the most important thing? Or even if there's like one thing that I need to get done, just do that one thing.
Sometimes I could do one thing on my to-do list and I feel like, okay, I'm done for the day, which can be a bit ridiculous, but especially if it's something you've been putting off, like, calling, somebody about like state taxes or something, which, I have to deal with sometimes.
It takes like 12 seconds and it's like on the list forever.
I know. I feel like that's not just me though, because I've seen memes about this. For people that are not even relating to business stuff, they're just like, I waited 3 months to do something that took 10 minutes and I learned no lesson. So at least it's not just me.
We'll do it again. No, you're not alone. I am right there. I mean, people, who know me know that I am not the most, what should we say, organized human being. I'm all over the place, but I feel like, it's my creative juices. That's just how I am.
Organized chaos, maybe. It makes sense chaos in your brain.
I know where everything is in my brain. But I know, we don't all have, that as a strength, but we focus on what we do have. And, if I'm able to still get some stuff done, then it's a win for the day.
So kind of transitioning, I know you have a set of grandparents that were Holocaust survivors. Did you grow up hearing stories from them about the Shoah? Is this something that has shaped you as a Jew? Something I'm super interested in general is generational trauma. And I think that, especially grandchildren or children of Holocaust survivors possibly carry this with them.
I mean, that is more relevant than anything else right now.
Yeah.
I feel like I just got the chills. But yeah, I mean, my grandparents were both Holocaust survivors on my mom's side. And we grew up knowing that. It wasn't until, so I lived in DC for 10 years. Okay. And in my heart, I was like, I must go to the museum, like at some point. And my grandmother was in the Shoah videos. So I was like, I need to go watch these videos. And I remember when they came to our house and were videotaping her.
Was this for the Steven Spielberg, the Shoah Foundation through USC?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. So I remember when they came to my grandma's house and we were all there, and my mom and my sister and my dad and my aunts and uncles, and we're like sitting there while they're recording her story. But I never was there when they did her story. It was just, we were present at the end, or, this is where we are now. And I went to the museum and I sat down, and for 3 hours I cried, and finally had the courage to hear her story and to hear what she went through. And it was unbelievable. I mean, there's just no words. I've told everyone, if you have the chance to do it, do it. Because, knowledge is power, and we don't know everything, but hearing the words from firsthand experience and what they went through was like, there's just no words. So absolutely it has, affected my life. I mean, in many positive ways, because we're so proud, till this day, I always, wear my Jewish star necklace, and, most people know, I'm very active in the Jewish community, and I think a lot of that has come from my upbringing. And, as much as we grew up knowing that my grandparents were in the Holocaust, it never made us feel less about ourselves. It was always like, well, this is who we are and we're proud of it. And we wanted to spread light on who we are and for other people to see that. Like, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But I do think, I always think about it, like, thinking about the thing, oh, well, there's certain things that we did in life growing up that maybe, were a reflection of that. I think small things like, don't forget to take, the sugar packets, or there was always certain things at restaurants where we grew up doing, because it was second nature, because it was you never know when your next meal is going to be, or, always, save the piece of bread, don't throw the food away. That was ingrained in my head, at least. And I mean, it's just unbelievable that honestly, it feels like we're living out the Holocaust in real time right now.
It's kind of crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
Never in my lifetime have I felt this way.
It's a scary time to be Jewish. Kind of going back to what you're saying, it's interesting that you bring up sugar, because I don't have any relatives who were personally in the Holocaust. I have very distant relatives I've really recently found out, because I have a very uncommon maiden name. But they lived through the Great Depression. So very similar. I know when my great grandmother died, they found bags of rock hard sugar in closets, newspapers. My dad's mom would literally steal things from restaurants, So it's interesting that, that's something that they never really got over. Was your grandmother in a camp, or what was
My
her
grandmother,
story?
so my grandmother was in Auschwitz, and her parents were taken to the gas chambers like immediately. And her two sisters survived. And I just remember the word that I keep playing in my head from those videos that I watched was she kept saying we had hope. Like we never gave up hope. And I'm just like, how in the world are you able to have hope when you're in this horrific experience? Your parents are taken from you. You're 14 and they're getting burnt. I mean, it's just like, and she just said, we never gave up hope. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that is so powerful. And I think about that all the time. And I think, if my grandmother were alive today and, she saw what I was doing, and I think about her all the time. And, I think she would be so happy and proud that, I'm out there saying, hi,
Yeah.
I'm Jewish and I want to make Judaica fun. And I want to, want people to not be scared to be proud of it.
I think she'd be proud of you.
I think so. I hope so.
My husband and I 5 years ago took a trip to Central Europe and actually visited Auschwitz. Is this something that you would want to do someday? Or do you think
done it.
You have done it?
No, I have done it. So in high school, I went to a Jewish day school, and our senior class trip was going to Poland and then to Israel. And we went to Auschwitz and we saw her barrack that she was in. And
Wow.
It was like, it's a moment in time I will never forget.
It's really hard to describe the feeling of being there unless you've been there, because one thing I really found surprising was how peaceful it felt in some capacity.
Oh my gosh, it just seemed very like history stood still.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
very
Yeah, it's hard to explain.
crazy. It is very hard to explain.
I think it's something super important that if you find yourself in Poland, not that many people do. Well, I love Poland in general. I think it's beautiful, and I think Krakow is amazing. But I'm always encouraging people to consider that. And I'm very big on Holocaust education. I'm going back to school and hopefully going to be pursuing an advanced degree in that because of what's going on right now. Because I think that, as we're losing survivors who were actually in camps, there aren't many of them left. It's very hard to be connected to that. And, there's always been Holocaust deniers. But as time goes on, I think, you get more distance from things. You're doomed to kind of repeat yourself. And that's scary.
It's very scary. I would highly recommend anyone to go. It is like,
or visit a Holocaust museum. If you're not, if you can't go to Europe, most major cities have Holocaust museums. We have one here in New York. There's the Museum of Tolerance in Los Angeles. Go to DC to go to the national one. It's important.
It's very important. I think, when you're ready, I think you should go. Like we lived in DC for 10 years, and I think I went the last year we lived there. Mm-hmm. You just need to go when it feels right for you. Don't feel pressured, and just kind of go on your own terms. And I think, it's so important.
Yeah.
Even though it's hard, but
it is
so
hard.
Important.
But, sometimes important things are hard.
Yeah.
Or even like I just got, this is going to sound strange. I just got the 30th anniversary edition of Schindler's List for Hanukkah because they have all these extra features. Watch a movie. You start steps. I think a lot of people, I don't know if anybody listening feels this way. They know that there was a Holocaust, but they don't know the details. So you can look into it. Just do a little research, and I think it'll be very eye-opening to people.
No question.
So switching to something a little bit happier.
Sure.
I've seen videos of you making challah and holiday pastries on Instagram. Is this something that you do every week, or do you only make challah for special occasions?
So I love to bake challah. First of all, I love to bake.
Good for you, because I feel like I'm the worst chef baker in the entire world. So I'm always impressed by people who can.
Yeah, no. So cooking in general is not my jam. We leave that to my husband. One day, maybe I will try, but I have tried many times and have not succeeded. But baking, I love. I don't know if it's just the creativity of it, or I don't know what it is, but it's more my speed. And every Friday, I like to have fresh challah. Like, it was like a dream. I was like, oh, like, why not? Like, that would be so cool. So once a month, when I am not stressed and when, I don't need to be rushing to have it ready for Shabbat, I just pick a day of the month and I bake like maybe 5 or 6 challahs and I freeze them. So then every Friday morning, I take it out of the freezer and I put it on the stove or not like on, but just take it out to defrost. And then right before Shabbat, we stick it in the oven and then it's hot and it's delicious. And I'm not stressing out. There's so many times where I've done it where like I'll start the dough Friday morning and I'm like, I don't even have everything ready like for Shabbat. And it's like, okay, we need to put the challah in the oven. Like it's too stressful. So yes, it happens sometimes, but I like to enjoy the process. And I also love doing it with my girls. And it's special to me. I really like the whole, like when they bake with me, like they'll have like sprinkles and chocolate chips and it's like a whole fun, like activity. And that to me is what it's all about. So finding the happiness in the everyday routine.
Where did you get your challah recipe? Is it a family recipe?
So the recipe that I use now, actually, that I love is from my Jewishly Liz on Instagram from Atlanta. Her recipe is vegan, and I love it. It comes out perfect every single time, and it's easy, and I feel confident doing it, and I'm not worried about like the yeast rise. I don't know. That's what I've been using the last year, and I don't plan on changing that anytime soon.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, especially when it comes to food. I remember
the recipe I had before was a friend's recipe, and it was always good, but it was every time I did it, it was different. Like
that's one of the things that I don't like about cooking is that there's this. I make this jalapeno popper chicken, which I love. It's like very what is it?
Spicy.
Is it spicy?
Well, no, it's low carb. It's what I was looking for. I had coffee that's clearly wearing off. It's low carb because I was looking for low carb recipes and it's really good, but sometimes it doesn't taste the same. So I feel like that's one of the things I don't like about cooking is that it's sometimes really hard to get it the same. But I guess baking is different. I've heard people they hate baking. They're really good at cooking. My husband's like that. He makes his own recipes, is very adventurous, but he doesn't like baking as much. Or people who love to bake and they're like, I don't like to cook because they're totally different.
Totally different. That is exactly how we are in my house.
So walk me through a typical Shabbat and what that looks like at your house.
So every single Friday night, we always put a tablecloth out and we set the table with flowers and we get one of my drip trays out and we put them under the Shabbat candles. I also use it as a challah board. So I also have a challah board and we put the Kiddush cups out and we get the wine and the grape juice and the challah comes in the oven. So it comes out warm and it's handmade. And it's the time where we just like are together. And we usually turn off the lights and we light the Shabbat candles and you just feel the warmth of Shabbat. And it's like the lights just kind of embrace the room and it's a really special moment. I mean, we say the bracha over the candles, me and my 2 girls, and then my husband does the wine, and then my daughters usually do the challah blessing, and that's the routine. I mean, and then, we put the lights back on and we have dinner. So we're very we're not Shomer Shabbos, but we feel that it's important for our kids to see us do this, and we want them obviously to continue the tradition if they we never want it to feel forced, but we'd hope we would shine a positive light on welcoming the Shabbat and having it present in our house.
This is something that we've started doing recently as well, though sometimes we don't immediately sit down to dinner because life is crazy. But I think
same thing.
I think it's important, especially with the modern world, to just take a moment to take a breath and appreciate the week. And I've started going to Friday night services too, as just kind of, even just by myself, as kind of a way to just kind of like sit for an hour and just be without my phone, without worrying about my business, without a toddler. So that's one of the things that I really like that we've started doing. So, if you're interested in doing this, you don't need to be Shabbat observant. You don't need to, not be on your phone for the whole time. Light some candles, drink a little wine, have some carbs, there's nothing wrong with any of that. Yeah.
Right.
Though I don't make our challah. My daughter they send it home from school. It's in like a plastic bag, but it's still really good.
We get that also. But there's something about the self-care aspect of all this as well. Like you said, even like if you go to shul for an hour or you find that quiet time, you don't have to go to synagogue. I mean, it's finding that break from the week to the weekend and just having that moment to just be has really been why I do it. I mean, I look forward to it every week where I'm like, okay, the week's great. Like what we do also when we finally are sitting down for dinner, we always do our highs and our lows. And I think it's important to just have that connection and to talk and to be present, like we said, and be off our phones and
not in front of the TV, because we eat dinner in front of the TV a lot too.
I mean, who does not?
If you say you don't, you're lying.
You're lying. No, it's just natural. But yeah, I think it's that time to just be together. And even if it's for 15 minutes, like it works for us. And that's, it's important.
I completely agree. How has becoming a mother changed your relationship with Judaism? Because I know for me, it's completely changed since I had my daughter.
Completely. I would say I've been more religious, or I wouldn't say religious, but more observant after becoming a mother. I don't know. I mean, I think the fact that we had children is a miracle in itself. And I mean, when I was first pregnant, I was like, I wouldn't even talk about it. Like, it was like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to jinx it. I don't know if it's just...
That's a very common Jewish thing. Like, Jewish people usually don't have baby showers. They don't set up anything. It's bad luck. I mean, if you come from... I can't speak about other types of Jews, but Ashkenazi Jews are super superstitious.
I mean, I wear my red bundle every single day.
We put a red ribbon on my daughter's crib. Like, that's something that my family does. Yeah.
I had a red bundle in my wedding dress because I remember, like, I didn't want to wear this in pictures. And I was like, please tie a red string. I mean, we grew up, like, my grandma would always put little red strings, like, in our dresses. Like, it was just, again,
that's how Jews are, even the cups, like, you're supposed to turn your cups upside down.
We still do that.
Yeah, I do that.
We still do that.
Yep.
It's very funny. I loved it. There's so many things that you think no one else does, but other people do.
I know. When I met my husband, he's like, why do you do that? It's like, because of evil spirits, you don't want them getting in the cups, which in 2023 sounds like a crazy thing to say. And I'm like, also, you don't want like dust to get in the cups. So like there's a practical reason.
We turn the cups, it's so funny, but we turn the cups over because my grandma used to say, if you lost something, you would have to turn 3 cups over and then you would find it. It wasn't even for the dust.
Oh.
It was something else. It was next level. But it works. I don't know why.
we love the grandmother Ashkenazi superstitions that they brought from the shtetl.
And we're still doing it today. Yes. So here we are. But I would say, no question. I think becoming a mom has, in the most beautiful way, made me appreciate being Jewish.
Are there specific traditions that you hope to pass on to your daughters?
I hope that, if for nothing else, that they're proud of who they are and never let anyone say, that you shouldn't be doing what you're doing, or, do what makes you feel good. And, I want to, pass down the Shabbat traditions and making challah and just the little joys. Like, I love even the music. I mean, I just think it's not, you don't need to be so observant to feel connected. It's whatever works best for you. And I think my only hope for my girls is that they would feel that way and not feel pressured, to be a certain way or to do something different if that's not what they truly believe.
I think one thing that I'm super pushing right now is the idea of Jewish joy. I feel like in general, a lot of our holidays, a lot of our shared trauma is traumatic. It's negative. It's not happy. I've seen stuff online joking to be like, all of our holidays they tried to kill us. They didn't. Now we eat, which is a thing.
I've seen that meme.
Yes. But I feel like the idea of bringing Jewish joy, especially right now, and, it's, difficult celebrating Hanukkah. Well, there's a lot of people who are not able to do that with their family because they're hostages right now, is so important. Yeah. But not even with what's going on right now. Just in general, I think the idea of Jewish joy is so important.
Yeah. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's really like we need that right now.
It's important.
I feel like since October 7th, I have not been the same. And I feel like there is so much weight on our shoulders. And every day goes by and we're like, how are these people still hostages?
I don't know about where you are, but because I'm in the Upper West Side, there's posters everywhere. So I feel like I see these people every day and I've now come to know them in a way. So it makes it very personal, which I think was the idea of the poster project to begin with. But I think that makes it that much harder because it's just a constant reminder that it's still happening.
I keep hoping that I'm going to wake up and like magically they will all have been rescued. I think about this every single day. Jewish joy.
Yeah.
That what else can we do? I mean, it has brought us together in a way that I've never felt, like I said, ever in my life. We are here and we are not going anywhere, and we might as well shine bright and be happy as much as we can.
So this next section, there's short form questions done in the style of the Actor Studio, and I ask these same questions of all my guests. So the first question is, what is your favorite Yiddish word?
Oh gosh, I have to do it quick.
You don't have. If you can't do a quick answer, you can do a longer answer.
My favorite Yiddish word is going to be. Let's think. I have like a whole Yiddish collection. The pressure's on. Azoy.
Okay.
Which is like, I don't know, like a lot or like. What is it? Now I'm going to have to look it up. But it was like so much, like azoy, like you had to do that so much.
said with the
Next
inflection
question.
up. What is your favorite Jewish holiday?
Sukkot.
If you were to have a bat mitzvah today, what would the theme be?
It would still be Arielle. I thought about this and I was like, it's going to be myself, because my bat mitzvah was myself. It was Arielle. It was just my name, and I would do the same.
What were the centerpieces for that theme?
It was just me as a child. It was my face like on every table. It was great. My cake was like my face when they could like print. You remember when they would do that?
Yes.
I know they still do that.
Yes.
But like, I don't know. My theme was my name. I don't know. There wasn't like something that like I loved.
Yeah. So you were like, it's a day about you, so you're going to be the theme.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes complete sense.
Total.
What profession other than your own would you want to attempt?
Great question. I wish that, oh my gosh, I don't even know. I wish that I was an organized human being. I wish that I wish that I was just able to be a professional organizer. No, I don't know. I wish I had that strength, and I do not.
And I don't either, so we are on the same page.
Yeah.
If heaven is real and God is there to welcome you, what would you like to hear them say?
My name is Arielle, which is Lioness of God. And I could only hope to live up to that name and to be a beacon of light and I don't know.
You would hope that God would say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
So if someone is a new customer, do we have a discount code or a special promo we could share with anybody listening who's interested in your products?
Sure. So for 10% off of anything on my site, the code is just the letter, the two letters, you are amazing 10.
What a happy discount code.
I know. We try. It's funny. When I first started, I would sign everything with "You are amazing" on the back with the letters AZ in the word amazing, like my signature. So it was like, "You are amazing."
Oh.
I don't know. There was something about like spreading that joy that I always wanted to do.
You can follow Arielle on Instagram. I do. She posts her products and, things like baking. And she's, like we said, very responsive, which is rare with somebody who has as many followers as she does.
Thank you. I try.
We're all just doing our best.
We're doing our best.
We're all doing our best. I'm trying to wake up in the morning. I'm like, I'm just doing my best.
That's
I'll
it.
get a t-shirt.
I would like that.
Maybe I'll start a company where I'm just selling, t-shirts from moms that say things like, I'm just doing my best. Or like, I woke up today. I need a gold star.
I would like 5 gold stars.
Because I need another business. So thank you so much for joining me. It was lovely to talk to you. Of course.
To meet you, Nicole. This was so much fun.
Well, thank you so much. So this has been She Brew in the City, and I'm Nicole Kelly.